Senador Gordon, heto, habang tumutulong ang ating Pangulo sa mga kababayan natin na nasalanta ng bagyong Odette, ay nako, nakasilip na naman ng pagkakataon na birahin ng birahin si Pangulong Duterte. Wala ka talaga, Gordon. Nasa gitna tayo ng sakuna. Imbis na tumulong ka na lang, heto't nang bibisit ka na naman. Hindi ka na ba nahiya sa mga nasalanta ng bagyo? Pagpapasko pa na naman. Heto't may mga panibagong problema na naman ang mga kababayan natin. Puro personal na lang na galit ang inintindi mo. Pwede ba, tumulong ka na lang muna? Di ba, yan ang panatan ninyo ng mga taga Red Cross. Tulong muna sa mga kababayan natin. Ngayon, kung may problema ka sa Pangulo, di magkalap ka ng ebidensya, saka mo kasuhan. Hindi ka na ba makapaghintay? Kailangan pa bang i-memorize yan? Dapat alam mo na this. Senador ka, di ba? Yan ang ginagawa mo sa Senado. O gusto mo lang i-trial by publicity si Pangulong Duterte? Style mo, bulok. Ito nga yan, ang buong detalye. At kapag hindi pa nakapag-subscribe, subscribe na upang tuloy-tuloy ang ating talakayan.
Hindi po ako duwag, Mr. President. Takot ako pero hindi ako duwag. Sana tigilan nyo na at tulungan nyo na lang ang bayan natin. Imbis na pinagtatanggol ninyo si Michael Yang na isang banyaga na inappoint niya pang economic advisor. Sorry, Mr. President. Minura nyo ako, uulit-ulitin ko lang yung ginawa nyo na hindi tama. Hindi tayo nag-a-appoint ng foreign economic advisor. Lalo na't may problema tayo sa China. So kung nagtataka, kaya ba dyan pumihit kayo dahil na-influensya kayo? Naging malapit kayo. Naging tuta kayo ng China, Mr. President. Hindi ng tao ng China, ngunit yung mga pinuno ng China. Kaya talagang kawawa naman yung mga fishermen pag nasasagasaan ng bangka at iniiwanan na lang sa laot. Kawawa naman yung mga tao natin. Kailangan natin ng mga isda galing dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Hindi tayo makapagbigay ng pagkain sa mga nagugutuban sa ating bayan. At ayoko na pong padagdagan yan. Alam na ng tao, kaya sinasabi nyo. Ayoko naman sabihin na kaya tayo pinapagalitan ngayon ng nature. Ang mga kasabihan ng araw, pag minura mo ang Panginoon, babalikan ka, makakarma ka. At ngayon, ang bansa natin nakakarma. Anong araw, sinasabi sa akin ng kapatid ko, dapat, hindi sinabi ni President Quezon, ayoko na sana sabihin to, that I'd rather have a country run like hell by Filipinos rather than a country run like heaven by Americans. You know, my sister took it as a curse, and I just said he was just being nationalistic. I respect President Quezon a lot. Pero pagka kayo, pinapakita nyo na sumakampi kayo sa China at minumura pa nyo ang Panginoon sa lasalabat at tumatama sa atin, pandemic at lahat na. At ngayon, ito namang typhoon ang tumatama sa atin at talagang kasing lakas ng hayang, halos. At kita nyo, sasabihin nyo pa, wala na ata tayong pera. Hindi, sinabi nyo, I will just quote it directly. Ang sabi nyo ay naubos talaga yung pera natin. Nakadagdag po yan, yung nawalang pera dito sa Par Valley. Nakadagdag rin yung maraming perang nawawala sa pangungulimbat. At yumayaman lang yung ilang mga tauhan ninyo.
Wow, Gordon, pati Sakuna, ginamit mo na. Pinklawan ka na rin, LENI ka na rin. At talaga lang, Gordon, ha? Tuta ng China, si Pangulong Duterte. Sa tingin mo, may naniniwala pa kaya sa'yo? Magtrabaho ka na lang at tumulong ka sa ating mga kababayan. Tignan mo, hindi ka pinapansin ng Pangulo. Wala ka kasing kwenta. Wala kang halaga. Mas mahalaga sa kanya ang ating mga kababayan. Panoorin mo na lang kaya itong next video kung anong ginagawa niya ngayon. Habang naninira ka dyan, heto't tumutulong siya. Kaya mas maraming Pilipino ang nagtitiwala sa kanya dahil siya makatotohanan. Hindi gaya nyo, puro ngawa.
Good evening, my countrymen. Maayong gabi ka ninyong tanan. Lalo na diha sa Visayas nga naigo og kusog nga bagyo. At malakas yung bagyo na dumating sa buhay natin. At we are doing everything we can. Pinafast track ko. Para hindi ako makalimutan I have decided to declare a state of calamity. So, I will sign it now. Saan yung papel? So yun. Then I'm flying to tomorrow. Balik ako doon. There are many regions in the country were battered by Typhoon Odette in the past days. The National Disaster Risk and Reduction Management Council. Ito ang hindi ko talaga kaya that's why kahapon mga ano na lang nila itong opisina na ito para sa akin. Sino bang gumawa nito? Itong National Disaster Risk Reduction Management kasi. Hindi ko every meeting, hindi ko memorize. Sinasabi ko lang, yung risk disaster teams. So, the NDRRMC, even sa abbreviated, mahaba pa rin, came out with a resolution recommending that the state of calamity be declared over the affected areas, and this would include Region 4B, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 13. Yun pinirma ko. The declaration of the state of calamity will hasten the rescue and relief and rehabilitation efforts of the government and the private sector, including saan galing tulong, be it outside or tayo-tayo lang. This will also be an effective mechanism to control the prices of goods and commodities in the areas. Let us listen to the report and updates of Yusik Rick Halad, Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense, regarding Typhoon Odette. Rick, can you give us a...
Gabi, Mr. Mayor, may gabi sa itong mga cabinet secretaries o mga kababayan. So I'll be rendering a report of the effects of updated effects of Typhoon Odette and as well as our response. Next slide, please.
Rick, yan, mahina yung ano. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
We can
Sorry,
see
sir.
it now.
Okay, we monitored 75 flooded areas and 13 other related incidents, sir, like storm surge and the like. Next slide, please. I am sorry to present this, Mr. President. You're right in our first meeting that when you express your worry of a possible mounting of deaths, but then I only reported 12 deaths. But as of the latest report, Mr. Mayor, we now have 156 dead, 37 missing, and 275 injured caused by Typhoon Odette. And shown are the other effects. Initial report of damaged houses, 6,000 plus. 24 damaged infrastructure, initial pa rin yan, Mr. Mayor, costing 225 million. Damage to agriculture, initial report is about 6,893 hectares of crops, and as well as related damages to agriculture as shown, totaling about 162 million. Affected families, 304,000. And or more than 1 million of individuals. And displaced, 481,000 individuals. Next slide, please. This is the breakdown of our casualties. The most number of dead came from Bohol, followed by Cebu and Negros Oriental. Missing 37 and injured 275. The most common circumstances of deaths are drowning by flood, incidents at sea, being hit by fallen tree, and as well as due to flying debris and collapsed structure. And there were also deaths due to landslide.
Excuse me, but
Yes, sir.
I have to ask this question. Saan itong this set to sail despite warning? Ito yung, saan banda to?
Mga ano sir, kalat-kalat sir yan, yung mga pinagbawal ng lumayag, nag-ano pa rin, mga maliliit na bangka sir. Wala namang malalaking bangka na disgrasya.
Wala
There
yung,
were also instances of yung mga kababayan natin na recover yung kanilang bangka kasi takot na mawala ng panghanap buhay, and inabutan sila doon sa tabing dagat.
Sus Maria Josep. Well, okay.
Yes, sir. Next slide, please. And I have already presented this, Mr. President. I will no longer present this, our preparedness at the NDRMC regional level as well as local government units. Next slide, please. As part of our response, in order to provide emergency telecommunication services, the DICT, OCD, and DSWD deployed some satellite-based communication equipment. We deployed satellite dish or very small aperture terminal in Siargao. It is now providing data and voice communication. So may libreng tawag po doon, Mr. President. And as well as Wi-Fi, yung mga tao na lumalapit doon ay gamit ng Wi-Fi, nakaka-communicate sa kanilang kamag-anak, kaibigan. Meron din sa regional office ng OCD, that is being used as emergency operation center for the region. Meron din sa Maasin Leyte, emergency operation center ng local government units. The DICT deployed 2 vehicle mounted satellite and radio communications, mga communication van ito, Mayor, one in Leyte and one in Surigao City. And they also deployed VSAT team in Siargao and Dinagat. So somehow merong communications, telecommunication services, although very limited dahil limited yung radios na kanilang ma-serve in these areas. Next slide, please. These are some pictures of our emergency telecommunication services. As you can see in the upper left, nandyan yung maliit nating satellite dish sa Siargao Airport. In the lower left, may nag-BTC yung emergency, yung operation center natin sa Campo Hidalgo with the local government unit of Siargao. And the other pictures, Smart and Globe also deployed some of their assets, providing libreng tawag and charging. Next slide, please. On logistics handling, Mr. President, we chartered one cargo Boeing 737 based in Clark, and it's now serving the logistical requirements of OCD, DSWD, DOH, and other departments, sending relief goods to the affected areas. The DSWD and World Food Program is also making use of their wing vans. We also make use of the sea assets of Philippine Coast Guard and Philippine Navy, and air assets of the Philippine Air Force. Next slide, please. These are the summary of logistics that we have forwarded. A total of 60,500 kilograms family food packs from DSWD sent to affected regions utilizing the Boeing cargo airplane. We also deployed 2 mobile storage units in Surigao City. This can be used as this is being used as temporary warehousing of supplies and relief goods delivered. We have a warehouse of the ASEAN in Camp Aguinaldo, and they also provided us some relief items which we have already shipped, Mr. President, to Visayas and Mindanao. And we provided some shelter repair materials magagamit ng ating mga kababayan pagkukunin ng kanilang mga sirang bahay. Other relief goods numbering about or totaling about 11,000 tons were also already shipped. Next slide, please. In compliance to the instruction of the President, these are the actions of the different departments. On the assessment of the extent of damages in the area and to address the concerns of the LGUs directed to DOE, DNR, DA, the ICT, and DSUD, the assessment is now ongoing. The initial report from DA is 333 million worth of agricultural damages. The ICT and OCD deployed communications equipment, and DSUD through the IOM to provide some construction materials or GI sheets to Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands. And we also sent tarpaulin sheets to Caraga. To act as a crisis manager in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands, directed to the Secretary of the DSWD with the support of OCD. And the DSWD and OCD is now overseeing the conduct of operations. And these are the items that, some of the items that we sent to the affected regions. Hygiene kits, malong, blankets, and surgical masks. The operations are still ongoing, Mr. Mayor. To use boats, ships, and all resources to deliver supplies, equipment, and goods directed to the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard. These are the assets that were already being used. The BRP Gabriela Silang, BRP Sindangan, and BRP San Agustin from the Philippine Coast Guard. And the vessels of the AFP, BRP Iwak and BRP Ibatan. Next slide, please. To send the BRP Ang Pangulo to the Dinagat Islands and Siargao to be used as floating hospital directed to the armed forces of the Philippines. The said ship departed from Manila to Siargao last December 19, and bringing a medical team as well as some relief goods facilitated by the AFP. To send needed medical supplies and augment the health personnel directed to DOH. The DOH mobilized medical trauma response team and health logistics to Surigao del Norte and Siargao as shown. To assess the seaworthiness of vessels in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands, to add more mobility in the delivery of food and supplies directed to Marina. It has activated all its vessels to ferry relief goods, and the assessment report will be reported soon. to clear the roads and provide the needed equipment of the LGUs directed to DPWH. It has so far cleared 10 road sections in Caraga, and they deployed 55 assets and 315 personnel augmentation, and released immediate response fund in the total amount of 100 billion to Region 6, 7, 8, 10, and 13. Next slide. To provide rice and water, construction materials for the reconstruction of damaged houses, and housing assistance with priority for the poor, and to provide shelter assistance directed to DSWD and the SUD. The DSWD provided 14.5 million worth of assistance to all affected areas with the support of NGOs and LGUs. And the SUD and NSA will conduct validation and evaluation for the provision of housing assistance. Key shelter corporations determine short-term and long-term intervention. To provide more funds for typhoon response and recovery, DBM and all agencies, it's now being worked out tonight, Mr. President, after your instruction to be given a while ago. I talked to my director, and they are now working on it. They will come up with an estimate of allocation for all LGUs affected, as well as an estimate of damages from infrastructures, agriculture, schools, and the like, with a recommendation for the release to these LGUs and national government agencies. To immediately provide 15 horsepower generators for water refilling system. And the Office of Civil Defense is now coordinating with all concerned agencies to pool resources. On our end, Mr. President, we are deploying some of our generators, 15 horsepower generators in the inventory. The priorities in the next months is reconstruction and repair of infrastructure damages. And there are concerned agencies for this. The NDRRMC will conduct post-disaster needs assessment. It was one of the agreement reached in yesterday's meeting of the full council. But for the immediate reconstruction needs, concerned agencies can use their quick response fund, and maybe those who request can be given augmentation of their QRF so that they can continue with their immediate reconstruction and repair activities. On additional AICS funding for DSWD, the said department is now considering it in their next activities. And on agricultural assistance to farmers and fisher folks, Department of Agriculture have 1.35 billion worth of readily available assistance. So the NDRRMC has activated its response cluster. It is actually the crisis management team that the President directed to be activated, to be led by DSWD. Actually, in the NDRMC, we call it the response cluster, also being led by DSWD with the support of Office of Civil Defense. So all of these activities to be given by concerned agencies like Department of Agriculture, DPWH, DSWD, NHA, and OCD are being coordinated within the crisis management team or response cluster being headed by DSWD, and they are meeting daily on this, Mr. Mayor. Next slide, please. you already know this, that the NDRMC came up with a recommendation to declare a state of national calamity in these regions. And one of the recommendation also is for us to accept the offers of international assistance. There are already several countries initiating or offering their assistance to us, Mr. Mayor. And another agreement within the council meeting yesterday was the conduct of post-disaster needs assessment. It is now being planned by the NDRMC, and that will follow as soon as the current response will be slowing down. Therefore, our focus will proceed towards the full rehabilitation and recovery. Next slide, please. So that's my update, Mr. Mayor, on the effects of Typhoon Odette, as well as our current response in the Philippine government.
Thank you.
Connection with Typhoon Odette. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yun ang report ng ating Undersecretary Halad sa Disaster Office, or I don't know how to call that. Sila yung una, yung unang dumadating sa kung may disaster, calamity. Sila yan. Napunta ako ng I cannot now count the landing and take-off of the helicopters, but I've been to Leyte, Maasin, Bohol, Cebu. Then I visited Negros Oriental. Occidental ba yun? Negros Occidental. Bukas may dalawa pa akong puntahan para at makita lang ninyo. You have the clip so that they can see what we recorded while flying over areas of destruction.
O yan mga kasangga, kitang-kita naman kung sino ang puro ngawa at sino ang puro gawa. Well, alam na this. Baka naman, pwede na mag-like, mag-share, at mag-comment. Diyos tiyag nina, Apo. Hanggang sa muli!